Today, 10,000 workers in Maryland and D.C. call 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East, our union. 1199 SEIU is a leader on social justice issues, moving successful campaigns to raise the minimum wage, protect essential workers, and expand rights for our newest Americans. But how did we get here? District 1199E in D.C. began in 1969 when the workers in Baltimore's largest private hospitals first got together and organized. Back then, most hospital workers in the Baltimore area had little or no paid vacation, no health benefits, no pensions. They earned barely more than the minimum wage and were not entitled to the employment insurance. They had no rights on the job and didn't even have the right to organize a union. For African Americans who held 80% of the job services in the hospitals, working conditions were even worse because they faced racial discrimination on the job. These workers were not even allowed to use the same entrances as white workers.
A lot of hateful, mean things going on.
We only went in certain doors, and that was Rutland Avenue. We were not allowed to go in the front door, the back, all those doors. And that was housekeeping, nutrition, escort services, and engineering. And that meant that we couldn't go up on the first floor. They didn't want us up there. This is the way it was, and you didn't change it.
The civil rights movement had won major desegregation and voting right victories. For low-wage workers, very little had changed. One group that vowed to take the struggle to the economic issues was a union of healthcare workers called Local 1199. In the midst of the successful and volatile Charleston, South Carolina hospital strike, organizing got underway in Baltimore. Like Charleston, the Baltimore campaign was infused with the spirit of the civil rights movement, and union fever quickly swept the hospitals. Workers turned out by the thousands for meetings and demonstrations, working their jobs and livelihood in their fight for justice. Still not covered by the National Labor Relations Act, workers in Baltimore's private hospitals had no legally protected right to unionize. The hospitals did not have to allow the union elections. They could discipline or fire anyone who took a stand. Despite the high risks, the workers mobilized. They came to work early for the Crack of Dawn Brigade, which they called it, which passed out leaflets in front of the hospitals. They staged a series of high noons when hundreds would stop work and march into the hospital's administrator's office just to demand recognition of their union. The workers' efforts drew vital support from the African American and progressive communities in Baltimore, and on one memorable day, Coretta Scott King came to express her solidarity. As she stood outside the entrance of Johns Hopkins Hospital, nearly 1,000 workers bravely walked off their jobs just to come out and shake her hand. Seeing the solidarity and commitment of the Baltimore workers and wanting to avoid the turmoil that occurred in Charleston, the hospitals agreed to permit union certification elections. The first union election was at Lutheran Hospital on August 22, 1969, where the workers voted yes, 174 to 99. A week later, Johns Hopkins Hospital workers voted 807 to 460 for representation by Local 1199. Come fall, workers were engaged in heated contests at several other hospitals. Administrators at Maryland General tried to stop workers from wearing their union buttons and locked workers out for several days. But on October 23rd, workers voted 2-1 to unionize. Another resounding election success came a week later at Sinai Hospital. In the negotiations that followed the elections, our union wanted to increase the wages of the lowest paid workers from $1.60 an hour to $2.50 an hour. Our contracts not only accomplished that, but for the first time, gave the hospital workers health insurance, guaranteed wage increases, and a grievance procedure to protect them from unfair treatment on the job. Inspired by the hospital workers' success, hundreds of nursing home workers began to organize in the 1970s as well. Besides not having any of the standard employment benefits like vacations, sick leave, and health insurance, nursing home workers earned even less than hospital workers. They also staged high noons to pressure their employers to recognize their union. But nursing home workers had an advantage. Because they were covered by the National Labor Relations Act, they could demand an election. Workers won their union in the first 3 elections by such enormous margins that some owners agreed to recognize our union without holding an election whenever a majority of workers signed union authorization cards. Even with that agreement, the struggle wasn't over. The nursing home industry claimed that it could not provide better wages or benefits because the reimbursement rates set by the state were too low. So workers took their case to the governor, who agreed to appoint a panel to study the issue. When the panel recommended higher reimbursement rates, it opened the way for workers to secure their first nursing home contracts in the fall of 1970. Nursing home owners still balked at passing on the higher reimbursements to their employees until 1,200 nursing home workers walked off the job for a protest march to the state office building. That forced the owners to bargain in good faith. The contracts that resulted nearly doubled wages and brought nursing home workers their first paid vacations, health insurance benefits, and grievance rights. With an anti-union president in the White House, the 1980s were a difficult time for the entire labor movement. Employers demanded givebacks, but District 1199E held firm. It was in this hostile decade that workers across nursing homes came together to get a 30% pay raise, and nurses at Providence Hospital waged a 9-month strike to secure respect and increased wages. Another big step was taken in 1989 to enhance our strength when District 1199 EDC voted to affiliate with the Service Employees International Union, the largest healthcare union in America. The healthcare workers movement spread to Washington, D.C. and Rogers Memorial Hospital in 1971. The bosses ran a vicious and racist anti-union campaign, but the workers refused to be bought or intimidated, and they won their union. The DC membership grew when the workers at Georgetown University and Georgetown Hospital also voted to join. Seeing the gains that unionizing brought, nurses certified the Maryland Nurses Association in 1974 to represent staff nurses during contract bargaining at Prince George's Hospital. Throughout the 1970s, union workers rose to meet new challenges. In December 1974, over 2,500 members at Johns Hopkins, Maryland General, and Greater Baltimore Medical Center staged the first major hospital strike in the region. Despite icy weather, the picket lines nearly wrapped around the huge Hopkins complex. The 10-day walkout secured wage increases, better health and pension benefits, and training, and an upgrading program that worked really well. Throughout the 1990s, our union grew in new directions. In DC, we organized group home workers as well as social workers, nutritionists, pharmacists, community health administrators, and nonprofit workers. Following successful strikes in 1991 and 1997, Nurses with Professional Staff Nurses Association of Maryland voted to affiliate with SEIU. The dawn of a new millennium brought the birth of a bigger, stronger union in 2005, when PSNA nurses and 1199 EDC joined with 1199 NY to become local 1199 United Healthcare Workers East, our union, which today is home to 450,000 members. The history of 1199 SEIU in Maryland and DC is one of struggle, unity, and victory. And today, together, the workers of 1199 SEIU continue to lift the bottom and raise the ceiling for healthcare and community organization workers of the mid